Wailly-Beaucamp is a commune in the Pas-de-Calais department in the Nord-Pas-de-Calais region of France. The inhabitants of Wailly-Beaucamp are known as Wailly-Beaucampiens. Geography: Wailly-Beaucamp is situated 6 km south of Montreuil-sur-Mer, 15 km east of Berck-sur-Mer and 20 km from La Touquet, on the plateau between the valleys of the Canche and the Orthe. The town is crossed by the former Route Nationale A1 linking Boulogne-sur-Mer to Paris and is served by Junction 25 of Autoroute A16. Nearby towns and villages include Boisjon, Lepine, Verton, Aron, Saint-Vaast, Campagnols les Grands, Campagnols les Petites and Équires. The nature of the local geology lends itself to sand and gravel extraction. Local place names and hamlets. Beaucamp. This hamlet was given its name in 1901, on the initial creation of Wailly-Beaucamp. La Rédurie. Le Mouflet à Mouflet, also called Montreuil in 1311 and Montreuil in 1337. Tradition says that Mouflet was named in homage to the young Dauphin Louis XVII who, when imprisoned, didn't want his dog Mouflet to be imprisoned too. Le Fusilier. The name comes from the Picard word huche, which means bosquet in French and spinny in English. There are other Fussoys in the region: Houssoir at Parenty, Bellibrune and Bourg-le-Sec, Le Point du Jour, Le Holoy, Les Champs Reyes, Les Rives, Le Mont-Ghislain, Les Fonds de Wailly, Le Montadian and Montadian. According to Monsieur Albert Leroy, Montadian was the name of an old Picardy family. Les Garens. Etymology: we don't really know the origin of the name Wailly. Place names in France were subject to intensive research during the 19th century. Wailly didn't escape the investigations. Here are some hypotheses from Monsieur Harberville. Wailly is from the Latin vallis. R. Rodier judged this hypothesis probable, given the geographical position of the village. Wailly-Beaucamp is Gallicum, caused by mutation of W to G. Gallis and GT. Gaulois, Wailly being a border village of Picardy and therefore of France. According to L. Récouart, Wailly-Beaucamp, a little ford, in the Couloir de Hôtel Dieu de Montreuil. In the article entitled Wailly, there's a curious drawing of a dog that is barking wail, wail. The changing spellings of the name Wailly, 11th-12th century, Uali, Codex Traditionum Sancti Georgii Historiensis, single quote. 1239 Wailly-Beaucamp, listed as a member of the commune of Saint-Just-sur-Mer. 1240 Wailly, as above. 1251 Velay, local map. 1311 Wailly, fiefdom of Maintenay. 1475 Wailly, Couloir de Hôtel Dieu de Montreuil. 1495 Vually, Terrier de la Commanderie de Lurson. 15th century, Census of Wailly, Carte de l'atoire de J.S. Montancy. 1656 Wailly. 1709 Wailly, map by N. de Fer. Les environs de Boulogne, de Taples, de Montreuil, de Montchalin, de Rue, et Eden. Around 1750 Vually, in a Catholic register. End of 18th century, Wailly, on Cassini maps. 1901 Wailly became Wailly-Beaucamp. History: medieval period. There's no mention of Wailly before 1143. A certain Werman, Lord of Wailly, signed as witness at the bottom of a map, in 1144. This was the first mention of a village called Wailly, near Montreuil. 18th century, the 8th of May 1783. The death of Adrien du Bus, who sold the manor house of Cosset. 19th and 20th centuries. During the French Revolution, the village was spared from any violence, despite the presence of a scaffold on one of Montreuil's squares. The Cosset family didn't leave the chateau, but Curate Warreau preached revolutionary sermons. With the creation of the new départements, Wailly was no longer part of the canton of Warbonne, but moved to that of Montreuil. During the 19th century, no events of great importance unfolded at Wailly. In 1871, Wailly saw some visiting Prussian soldiers. 5 years later, a tornado shook the town, and in 1881 saw the arrival of a hot air balloon. From 1891 to 1955, the Burg-sur-Lys railway line crossed the town. This train, called the Le Tortillard Cottages show train, stopped at Wailly twice a day. Nothing remains of the railway nowadays, except for the station building and a pedestrian footpath linking up the Lombard footpath to the Route Nationale No. 1. Because of problems with mail being sent in error to Wailly-les-Arras, it was decided to rechristen the town in 1901. Since then, the hamlet of Beaucamp lent its name to go alongside Wailly, and so was born Wailly-Beaucamp. The girls' school was constructed in 1908 alongside the N1 road. During the Great War, the town paid with the life of 27 of its inhabitants. As with just about everywhere else in France, a war memorial was erected in 1921, facing the church porch. Demography, places and monuments. St. Peter's Church, constructed originally in the 16th century after the war against the Spaniards. We know that it was then dedicated to St. George. The church probably had a second nave to the north, in line with the lateral chapel. In 1770, during a storm, the tower collapsed but was rebuilt a year later. The lower north side is probably made of brick. During the 19th century, the church was in a very bad state. The Vicomtesse of Cossert first of all proposed to demolish the church and rebuild it, her offering 10,000 francs and a gift of land. After the refusal of the town council, the priest Dubois obtained an estimate from architect Clovis Normand, and in the spring of 1883, work began with the financial assistance of the Vicomtesse. The present church is the product of these restorations. Nothing much of the original 16th-century church remains, except for the choir, the nave of 3 vaults up to the triumphant arch, and the lateral chapel. The big nave was therefore rebuilt in the 19th century, and the northern nave was demolished. 2 arches resting on an octagonal battery in sandstone separate the chapel nave. The furniture was replaced. It was of neo-Gothic style and decorated with biblical scenes and fantastic beasts. Chapels. The chapel of Our Lady of the Salette is of neo-Byzantine style, constructed by architect Clovis Normand in 1869. The chapel of Our Lady of Good Death is in the neo-Gothic style, erected by the Bloch-L family in 1919. Domestic architecture. The town was generously endowed during the preceding centuries with grand houses, and still preserves its rural character thanks to a multitude of Picardy farms. A stately home, former a feudal castle, known as Petit Château, constructed in 1701 by the feudal Dubus family. Mouflé Château, 19th century example of the Empire style of construction. Beaucamp Château, 19th century. Le Foussoir Château, 19th century. Le Tilleuls Château, 19th century. Le Prairie Château, 19th century. The farm of Montherdine and other Picardy farms. Economy and services. Religious offices, library, primary school, multi-use hall, football pitches and basketball, post office, doctors, pharmacy, camping, guest rooms, bars and restaurants, bakery, butchery, mechanic and service station, hairstylist, plumbers, joinery, iron foundry, agricultural and horticultural enterprises, housing of equipment of worksite, quarry and quarrying equipment. Events. The European Meeting of Nature and Hunting, Miracles and Legends, by Roger Rodier, historian and inhabitant of the village, at the end of the 19th century. Superstition has it that in Puitborough Woods, sorcerers carried out the satanic rites right up until the Revolution, which seems somewhat exaggerated. They kept at Wailly huge sandstone blocks, called sorcerers' rocks, of altar shape, on which, it's claimed, the Nord-Pas cut the throats of the victims. These rocks are in various locations. 5 to the entry of Wailly, towards Erin, a huge one at the start of the woods, and 3 or 4 opposite Boyden's wine shop, at the junction with Church Street. Today, these stones have all disappeared. Alberic de Calonne tells us of the miracle of St. Adrian at Wailly, in the canton de Montreuil. Saint Adrian the Martyr, whose relics were preserved in Hainaut in the city of Grammont, was the object of special worship at Wailly. The Bollandists relate the following. October 3, 1516, Joan Lefebvre, wife of Jacques Dubois, who lived at Wailly near Montreuil, was gathering vegetables in her garden when her mother, dead for the past 3 years, appeared before her and said, "Joan, my girl, be assured, I am your mother. Do you remember that during one of your illnesses we promised to make the pilgrimage to Grammont together? Well, because you didn't fulfill this engagement, I now suffer cruelly in purgatory." The vision disappeared and Joan didn't speak to anyone about it. 8 days later, she was preparing the kitchen fire, when suddenly, her mother appeared again and deprived her of her senses. Learn this, that there will be no rest for you until you go and revere the relics of St. Adrian at Grammont. The unfortunate woman, deprived of her senses, told her husband, in a lucid moment, what had happened. Jacques Dubois didn't hesitate for a minute and took her, accompanied by a large number of the townsfolk, to Grammont. Immediately after she had kissed the relics of the glorious martyr, Joan opens her eyes and shouted, "Praise and blessings be to God and Saint Adrian, I am cured." On the following day, October 18th, St. Lou's Day, she recounted the event in the parish church of Wailly, in the presence of 30 witnesses. The worship of St. Adrian has disappeared nowadays.